Hi everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. I think I forgot to say that the last time, or maybe the time before as well. Right, a breath. My name is Faz.
And I'm still eating maple bacon mini pretzels.
Rich,
sorry.
that didn't work as well as previous ones.
It's alright.
I'm going to workshop the pretzel Rich.
Pretzel Rich.
I think there'd be worse things to be rich with. Oh, I fucking love pretzels. There's these ones that you can get that are just like, these are sort of they claim to be maple bacon ones, but there's the ones you can get, and you guys in America that listen will know that you can get this sort of like absolutely covered in cheese and bacon bits that taste just insane, and the amount of salt level on them is, just to die for, literally. So yeah, my recommendation for pretzels there, a 9.
It's good. Solid score for pretzels.
Yeah,
in general.
Yeah, they win. We're back on our PSP and PS Vita trail this week. I feel like it's been a while since we really sent up some good games.
Actually did some Vita games.
Did some work. Yeah, when was the last time we did a Vita game?
It's got to be a while back.
Yeah. Who knew that there was so little on the console?
I would be shirking my responsibilities
that nobody
so
bought.
No,
I don't think it's you. I think, that's probably indicative of the Vita being an unloved console, maybe.
Maybe.
Do you love your Vita?
Oh, do I? Funnily enough, I was thinking that the other day. And it's like, I'm sure we will come on to this at a future point, talking about consoles and stuff.
So, do you want to save that then for our next podcast?
I can, but the short answer is yes, I do. To an extent.
Okay, fair enough. So our next podcast will be not sponsored by Retro Gamer, but we're going to do it anyway. I don't think it can't be illegal to use the content of Retro Gamers magazine, and us review what they have said. Is it?
I mean, to be honest with you, if they found out about it and came after us, I'd be quietly impressed, rather than anything else. I'd be like, oh shit, they know I exist.
We're popular.
Reply to my letters.
That's a thing. Rich has got feelings about letters to
I've written in a few times and I've never got in.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's disappointing, isn't it? What's the What You Game Gear Micro from last time? That sounds like something I might want to listen to. I don't know why.
Yeah, what am I going to tell them?
It was...
Guys, I bought it.
Oh, fast
Here's
thought it was, fine.
My friend's not as enthusiastic about my ridiculous purchase as I am. What do I do?
So we are going to be looking at the Bookazine special. I don't know why they put... Is Bookazine a thing? It's definitely on the spine of the Bookazine.
I've heard them referred to as MOOCs.
Oh, right, okay.
Magazine books.
Yeah. Isn't a MOOC like a schmuck or something like that? Isn't it?
Which is why it took me a couple of minutes to work out what it was.
It's like an old neo-noir film. Oh, you fucking MOOC. Something like that, isn't it? You big schmuck. That is I sounded really aggressive there. I scared myself a little bit. Yeah. Sorry. No,
chill out. Have a pretzel.
Clearly, it works. As a gangster move, to use that term. So yeah, I'm going to go back to Bookazine. I'm scared of MOOC now.
Yeah, probably should.
The Bookazine, that is Retro Gamer, which is the best handheld ever. I think it's called that. We should probably read that title.
Maybe check that
before we do the podcast. But we've been reading it. You have read it.
Yes, so by the time we come to actually talk about it, it would have been several months ago.
You've forgotten about it. Maybe I should bring it back around. And I am reading it currently. And we're going to use a little bit of the content just to inspire conversation on the podcast. Do we agree with what they've kind of... They didn't rank them, but inadvertently they have ranked them by giving them all scores. So it's they've ranked their handheld gaming consoles and also went into deep dives on quite a few of them. So there's quite a few points that we've made on that to discuss. I think that is things that we've discussed quite a lot previously as well. But you can still buy it and in shops, and also, or maybe not in shops so much, but you can get it online. And we'll put a link on there as well. So if you are interested in reading that, or listening to us talk about it as well, then feel free to do so. And then after that, it'll be our last podcast of the year, which will be podcast number 41 that we've done. Yeah, we're still here, you bastards. And we are going to take our arbitrarily scored games and consoles, I maybe would think, probably.
Yeah,
maybe a
and
little bit
also
of-
other things like shingles.
Yeah, and shingles, and put them all in a pot, and each of the pots, so ranging from 0 to 10, we are within that score bracket going to pick out our best game. So our best 0 out of 10 game, which has got one thing in there right now.
And shingles.
Yeah, no, shingles was 1 out of 10.
Oh yeah, no,
give
shingles was 1 out of 10.
Yeah,
God, what was I thinking?
Because you got to watch wrestling videos, I think.
Oh,
Maybe.
Yeah, and I managed to free that bird from under the bath.
Oh yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, okay.
there were good moments.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
a couple of moments, and so
Hell of a week.
I nearly died, but there was those two things in there. So there's those, and we go all the way up to 10, and we decide our best game in each of the score brackets, which is going to be quite hard because we will have games that we have played and that we love within that score, but that's what's going to make it quite fun because I guess we're going to get pretty petty and bitchy about it. But I fully expect that we will also get to an answer by being very amicable and lovely to each other in some weird way.
Politeness will reign supreme.
Exactly, yeah. So we'll work out a system of how to do that, but to be honest, it'll probably just be this is better than this, and then we'll probably go, yeah, probably, yeah,
you're right.
yeah, that's fine, yeah, you're right about that.
I'm not as invested in this as you.
And that kind of will form our reviews of the year, games of the year, our Spotify Wrapped. But even though we're a host on Spotify, I can't be asked actually doing a Spotify Wrapped. I think you've got to send polls out to people and shit. It's just like, I don't care about anybody enough, or myself. So, that's our Spotify Wrapped, but not how Spotify would want us to do it, I don't think. So, where were we again?
We were reviewing...
I asked you if you liked your Vita or not.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about some Vita and PSP games.
Yes, for once.
Good. Excellent. Okay, so I will then enforce more Vita chat.
Yep.
Because I miss it so much in my life.
Right.
Please tell me what you've been playing.
I've been playing Gravity Rush Phaz.
Excellent.
As in Gravity Rush, Phaz. Not like, it's not called Gravity Rush Phaz.
That would be pretty
That would be
amazing.
very strange.
And weird, wouldn't it? Yeah. More pretzel noises for all. Right.
So yeah, I've been playing Gravity Rush.
Mm-hmm.
It's from 2012. And I think originally was meant to be on the PS3 and then kind of got moved over to Vita. And I checked the other day, I think rather than being like a launch title, it was a quote-unquote launch window title. So I think it came out relatively quickly after the Vita did.
Launch out the window.
Something like that. And needed a few performance patches and stuff like that. Because it's kind of an ambitious sort of kind of open world kind of thing.
Okay.
About an amnesiac girl called Kat who basically falls down a lot.
Oh.
So you kind of...
It's like a sad story.
Well, potentially. But like it's... In many other ways, it would be almost like a superhero story. As it is, you're kind of in this world that's sort of got sort of sits halfway between like European comics and like anime. So it feels like it sits somewhere between some batshit Japanese cartoon and like Tintin or something like that, like the art style is sort of this weird mash of European and Japanese, and it's kind of distinctive for it. And you effectively can control gravity thanks to this entity that joins you. In your case, it forms a cat, and there are other people who have other animals, but do similar things. And this kind of floating city is ravaged by these sort of gravity storms, and you have to try and work out your kind of place in it and help just stave off this threat, basically. The way you do that is through a shit ton of falling. So you
That's how I would do it.
it's how anybody would do it.
It's the easiest way.
So you can control gravity. So when you fly,
That's handy.
Yeah,
For when there's gravity threats
it
coming.
is genuinely useful. When you fly, you are not flying; you are falling sideways.
Okay.
And you can fall upwards, and you can run on the underside of buildings. You can run on the side of buildings. All this kind of stuff. Like traversal-wise, like it's probably one of the most fun games I've had for just getting from A to B.
Yeah.
Since like some of the old Spider-Man games, you know, and like the camera's a little bit unruly sometimes, but generally does the job. The kind of fun bits are when you realise that the world, like, it's not it's not a huge open world, it's not massively detailed or anything like that, but it reacts enough to what you're doing to kind of get your attention. So, like, you can create like little gravity fields around you so that you can pick up items to throw around, or if you're gonna suddenly zoom off somewhere, you might occasionally hear like a kind of yelling from the crowd as you start to do it, and then you realise that you've accidentally caught someone in your gravity field as you go shooting off, and you've got like this old lady that's just floating there next to you or whatever. Or like you can, if you run out of like energy to fall, as it were, you can actually fall straight back down in normal gravity. And so you're zipping around and you're in control, and then suddenly you fall flat on your face and it looks fucking painful. And like you can crash into like phone boxes or benches or whatever, and they'll shatter. And things like that. So like the world reacts to you like in enough of a way to make you feel connected to it. And it's a very, very clever balance they've struck between it not taxing the system too much. There's the odd performance hiccup, but it's not anything too grim. And also, just it gives you enough to put you there. A lot of the controls kind of hinge on the touchscreen and the gyro. I use the gyro controls on the Vita more than I have done for basically any other game ever.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel completely natural, but it is kind of good for fine-tuning some of your movements. There's a lot of the combat hinges on you dive kicking or aggressively falling at stuff, which is all fine and dandy until some of those things are flitting around the sky quickly and you're having to readjust, get in line again, fall back towards them, and then do it again because they've dodged out the way. And you can also dodge yourself, but you have to swipe across the screen to do that, which when you're trying to press square to like hit something and then just swipe on the screen.
You can also dodge yourself. That's a sentence. It's a sentence.
Yeah, like why you can't dodge from button prompt or button press rather, I don't know. Like it would just make sense to me, and I might be missing something, but I couldn't find it. So you've got combat that's a bit humdrum, right? You've got a world that's kind of fun, kind of reacts to what you're doing. The story is engaging, but it does lose a bit of momentum.
Okay.
Kat as a character,
ironically,
it is ironic, yeah. As a character, wants to do right by people, wants to be accepted and help people and all that kind of stuff. And like, she is genuinely like engaging as a character. And if you'll excuse the slightly laboured pun, down to earth. But like clearly just wants to do the right thing and all that. And there are a couple of times where like she thinks she's done the right thing, someone's unhappy with her, and she seems genuinely hurt by it. And it don't laugh, man, this matters. But it's it's that sort of thing that is endearing, right? However, the kind of overarching narrative isn't quite enough to like pull you through it. It kind of loses a bit of, like I say, the momentum. The combat isn't quite engaging enough to pull you through it either. You get to this point where you've gone all the way down the sort of central spire that this city sits atop of, and the artwork is also like it changes, so it's a bit more like ramshackle and all that, and it's like, well, where's my kind of fun, not quite Tokyo, not quite Paris thing? Where's that gone? Yeah,
That's really interesting that a game. It sounds like it devolves.
Yeah,
in most facets.
Yeah, it gets
it through, which doesn't usually
about
happen.
2/3 of the way through, and it was just like, you can feel it running out of steam.
Yeah.
And I checked. I've still got my save file from 2014 on there. And the reason I mention that is that when I picked it up again to play it through, first couple of hours, I was like, oh yeah, this bit. Oh yeah, that bit. Great, cool. And I was like, I thought this was far later in the game than this. Like all of the bits that I could remember were crunched down into that opening couple of hours. And then I was like, fuck, what actually happens like past this point? And then like as I got through a bit more of it, it was like, okay, I do remember that bit kind of.
Yeah.
You know, where you go down the pillar and all that. And after that, it's like I don't know. And I did wonder.
It's like you've got the amnesia that a cat has.
Well, yeah, maybe it's thematic. But I did wonder if, like, because when I was playing it originally, it was when I was, you know, schlepping up and down the country to see my then girlfriend, now wife. So, you know, hey, job done. Yeah. But, you know, I'd be on a coach for like 5, 6, 7 hours or whatever at a stretch. And I distinctly remember, like, blitzing it on some of those trips. So I just assumed that it was a combination of like sleep deprivation and just, you know, playing until my eyes bled and it all just kind of like washed over me. But actually I think part of that was because there wasn't really anything to like sink its teeth into me and pull me through it.
Yeah.
Which is a real fucking shame.
Yeah.
Because it's got so many there are so many things that it does right. And there are so many things that it does well. At the same time, it's not the most interesting thing in the world. I mean, it did get a sequel, and I do wonder if maybe some of the...
know that.
Yeah, I think, at least I'm not making that up. I'm pretty sure it got a PS4 sequel.
Oh, right, okay.
So I don't know if that resolved any of the kind of like narrative, like pacing issues that it perhaps has. But yeah, as it is, going back and playing it again, it was a really, really weird feeling, realizing how densely packed that kind of tutorial bit at the beginning and the first couple of chapters are, and how quickly it just kind of almost cuts you adrift a little bit.
So it's like all of your potential happiness sounds like it's dissipated.
Yes,
since the start of the review. Almost like this is happening the same way with the game. Like,
and what's kind of weird is that, you know, like the actual movement of falling, you will fall very, very quickly, and then you'll press a button and you'll float, and then you'll fall a different way and you'll float, and so it's this kind of quick, intense pace, and then this weird floaty nothingness, and it's almost like that's what happens with the plot. You know, you're falling really, really quickly, you're pulled through all of these bits, and you know you're dealing with this big bad guy who seems to be stealing these things, and then you know he ends up in a fight with you, and you have your big fight, and the fight stops, and then the plot's like, oh fuck, what else have we got? What else have we got? What have we got to do? Okay, well there's that kind of that got a passing mention earlier. We can try and solve that, and then there's that other chick as well who like, and then it kind of it just seems to feel like it loses its way.
I think that's the best way sometimes you can describe things. You know, when you just stop in a sentence and you go, I've got nothing else left to say. Like,
well, that's
sometimes that says everything about it.
I mean, it's not lost on me the fact that I've said this the same way 3 or 4 times now, and I'm still trying to get my head around it, because it's like so much of it is there, it's ready, and yet. So I mean, I know we were talking about like Phoenix Wright and stuff like that, and the kind of anime version versus the visual novel version. I wonder if Gravity Rush could have been better as a film. You know, give it to someone like Studio Ghibli or someone like that. Ghibli. And Ghibli. I think.
Can't call them Jubilees.
It sounds weird, right? But it was that sort of thing where I was like, I can kind of see, like, if you were going to get someone to make a film of this, that's who. Which is, it's a real shame, because like the world is fun, it's interesting, it's got side quests and challenge missions and stuff like that, which I didn't bother with at all, because I just wanted to float around and fly and just go from A to B and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I don't need a fucking challenge to do that. I just do it on my own. And yeah, it feels like a really good idea, a great world, kind of squandered. And even just details for like when you are standing on the side of the building, her hair and her scarf will always point down. Like proper gravity down. Yeah. So you know which way is down. Yeah, like the cover art. And all that kind of stuff. And it's those little touches that are great in this world. But the overall game, it just, it runs out of energy. It really does. So score-wise, God. A 6 feels harsh. A 7 feels generous.
Oh, really?
It's that sort of thing.
Okay.
I think it's probably not helped by the fact that nowadays, obviously, if you class the Switch as a handheld, and some of the open worlds you have on
find out next week
indeed.
On the podcast.
But it's that sort of thing where it's like, okay, well, handheld open worlds are different now. You know. But even then, when you had your Grand Theft Autos and stuff like that, and it'll be interesting going back one day and playing some of those, GTAs from the time and all that.
Yeah.
It feels possibly a touch overambitious, Gravity Rush.
Okay.
So, what am I going to give it? Sorry.
No. I just feel like you've had a lot to say about it. I don't know if that helps you score it or not.
Yeah, no, it does, because it's not boring. The story just doesn't pull you through it, and the combat doesn't either.
Yeah.
And when you're in a part of the world, and without spoiling things too much, it funnels you to a place where even just traversing is less fun.
Yeah.
And it does that a few times.
Name a sandwich that you're quite fond of, but not like it's not the true love of sandwiches. Filling, I'm talking about here.
Yeah. A BLT.
Okay, so
it's fine.
Imagine a BLT, of which there's just a lot of BLT in there. Like I'm talking like extreme amounts of BLT, like a lot of lettuce, a lot of tomato, a lot of bacon. So, would that make you happier than a normal BLT sandwich? That isn't just a
no,
and,
because the ratio of lettuce and tomato to bacon would upset me.
Yeah, so you need to give this game a 6 then.
I do, don't I? Because it's 6,
and that's the reason.
The BLT litmus test.
What I was trying to say was that you've given.
I fucking hate to admit it, but that's genius. You realise that, right?
No, it's not.
The BLT test.
That could not be it. That was terrible.
Take a sandwich that is acceptable but not your favourite. Multiply up the ingredients. Is it better than that?
Doesn't make a lick of sense. It's in.
It's a 6. It's a 6.
Let's just take it. Yep. Okay. That's that's why not. That's a compliment for my
Shall we just replace
analysis.
all the scores with different sandwiches?
I really want to now. We've come too far.
Yeah.
But in the end, it doesn't even matter. So, yeah. Oh, fuck. Right, okay. At the end of the pod, quick sandwich chat. All right. Just get ready for that. So, it's going to be harder for me because I'm going to talk about my game now. But, maybe you can drag me through some sandwich chat.
It's all right, I'll just...
Maybe favourite bread, favourite filling. I think that's all we need to kind of, maybe rock on with that. That's fine. These guys, they'll fucking love it. These listeners. I am going to talk about my game now. That was a statement of words. So, Daxter. Have you ever played Jack and Daxter? I haven't.
No, I think I dabbled for like maybe 10, 15 minutes on one of them one time on like a demo booth or something like that.
So Naughty Dog had their dirty little mitts all over Jack and Daxter, and it was sort of PS2. I guess I think there was 3. I think it was a trilogy on the PS2, and the next 2 games came on the PSP, and then I think that you could get the remastered trilogy maybe. Excuse me. I don't know what's happened. It's all the sandwich chat. It's made me, start to salivate and choke. So I never really played any of them. And this is the first one of the series that I have. And actually, you only get to control and play with Daxter. So it's from 2006. Naughty Dog didn't produce this game. Ready at Dawn did. Ready at Dawn, they've been mentioned on the podcast previously. They made the God of War games on the PSP, of which I reviewed the Ghost of Sparta. No, the Chains of Olympus. That's the game that I reviewed. And the Ghost of Sparta is regularly seen as one of the best PSP games. And so is the Chains of Olympus as well. And I think I gave it... Did I give it a 9? 8 or 9? I can't remember now. Yeah. But certainly give it a good score. And also, they also made Echo Arena for the MetaQuest 2 that Aaron, our friend, a few weeks ago lamented about it not existing anymore. So, they've been well used on the podcast for a publisher that's only published about 10 games, I think. Of which this is one of them, Daxter.
Are we going for the complete set?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't think I was necessarily interested that much in anything else. It was a really weird sort of thing. I don't know, when I looked at what they published, they just seemed to have published some really big PSP games and then some MetaQuest games and stuff. It was very strange sort of back catalogue for them to have. Anyway, so Daxter, if you don't know anything about Daxter, is the sidekick of Jack, and I don't know what Jack does because I've never played any of his games. Seems like a nice chap though, from what I can see from this game. Daxter seems to be one of his best friends. I think Daxter gave up being turned back into a human to help save Jack or help look after Jack after the end of Jack 1 or Jack 2.
Is it Jack or Jax?
Jack? No, it's Jack.
Is it Jack?
Yeah, okay.
Oh.
There are people that have played Jack and Daxter and love them and going, I hate you all so much.
No, you can hate me because I, for years, genuinely thought it was Jax and I've never been corrected.
Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. It's just because I'm I don't know the backstories of either of them anyway. No. But, I'll do them a better service soon, I promise. But Daxter is half otter, half weasel. Is it... So there's a Floatzel, isn't there? One of the new Pokemon's a Floatzel, I think. Yeah. Effectively, he's a Floatzel, which, Pokemon's stolen Daxter's identity. Although, annoyingly, in this game, where there are water parts, you can't swim, just die.
That's ironic.
For an otter/weasel, you'd think he'd be well up for it. But, anyway. No. So, he's like a sassy sort of sidekick in the Looney Tunes way, which is great. But the game... especially if you don't know the backstory, as in, he used to be human, and he flirts with the other humanoid sort of characters, of which, because I don't know what Jack is, he's got weird ears, as in, it's almost half rabbit, mostly human. But
that thing in Donnie Darko.
Yeah, pretty much, but nice, and but for example, there are sort of sexy assassin style humanoids of those types that Daxter flirts with, and it's a bit weird because obviously he's half otter, half weasel, but also human. So I'd hate to know what he thinks he would do. Anyway, it's quite Roger Rabbit. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? So the game in general, though, brilliant graphics, great controls for the PSP, which if you've listened to the podcast previously, which I'm hoping Rich has when he's been on it. I have said previously that a lot of the PSP games probably let down by their controls or how they use the buttons that are there on the interface of the PSP. This is not the case here. It uses the shoulder buttons very easy and fluid in moving the camera around, whilst you just use the other buttons to control Daxter very well. It is an excellent platformer. It is the best platform I've played on the PSP, by far. What I had the epiphany of when I was playing on this was that some platformers use their inability to let the player platform, if you will, and see it as a difficulty sort of spike, almost like something to be conquered. I remember Crash Bandicoot, almost is it, what is it, the high rope one? Whatever that's called, rope high, I can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, it's level 15 on Crash Bandicoot, and the difficulty of that level comes from the fact that you are moving vertically up the screen, and it's almost like they see it as a challenge that it's just difficult to do graphically, almost, that is in mechanically. and that's what makes it a difficult platform and the challenge of the game. Daxter lets you platform well at all times, but still retains some of that challenge.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that more sensible than the BLT situation?
Doesn't feel cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't feel like trying to do you a disservice while you're platforming around. So, and it feels so well made. Like, as in so, and I would wager this is from 2006, and I think, and I'm fairly certain that the God of War games like 2008 and 2010, I think they are like. This feels like a better platform than those as well. Right. And I think there is a more zoomed in view of Daxter than the God of War, which almost felt like you were playing like a Mighty Max / Polly Pocket sort of game. You felt quite far away from I guess the action there really. Whereas this more sort of over your shoulder, and I think that really helps it. The level design is impeccable. Like it just. You are moving around this little sort of... I'm going to be honest, the story is kind of a bit null and void, to be honest. You're trying to get Jack out of jail, but everything that you're doing is... It's almost like Fable. It's like you're just doing a job, you're just doing a task to move on to the next part of the game, but it doesn't really actually matter. Like, as in, so you've become an exterminator, a bug exterminator, which is like, okay, so you're a bug exterminator, like they're like the small enemies that lie around levels, and then there are occasionally boss bugs. And that's kind of like the story, really. Like it just doesn't. It's almost like secondary to the gameplay and the world that you live in. Yeah, it makes a little bit of a difference, but like not really. Like as in, so the characters are good, but you don't have to really worry about that story being driven forward. You're not like, oh, what's going to happen next? Yeah. So yeah, but the level design, you move through lots of different verticalities. For example, you might slide down a pipe, much like Luke slides down in Empire Strikes Back when he drops down down the Death Star. Like down one of those pipes, and you have to avoid, obstacles coming at you whilst you're collecting these weird eggs. I'll come back to that because you know how I fucking hate collectibles. Mm-hmm. I'll come back to that. But then, you might have to go down a zip wire, and rather than just going from a zip wire from A to B, you've actually got to avoid hitting the pipes by swinging Daxter around and having a bit of momentum to do that. There's a bit where you jump across from different trains in the subway, and you have to time it, and there'll be one train going to the left, one train going to the right, and you basically just have to and then you'll switch trains and it'll go to the next area and you'll still be on that train. And whilst you're on the roof of the train, you've got to avoid some electrical wires. And then you've got to jump to the next train. Again, not being cheap about the platforming. You can fail it and you can get frustrated with it, but it feels like the right level of frustration in terms of you feel like you're actually accomplishing something and it's not...
Is it the sort of thing that it feels like it's your fault?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're like,
right,
you're definitely like, Faz, you're a fucking idiot, rather than the game being like, oh, you can't do this because it just isn't well made.
Yeah, okay.
So that's really cool. There's one level where you're on a bug dusting machine that is just like driving a ghost on Halo. The closest experience you could have to that, possibly at that time, of having that little sort of half flying machine hovering around, and that's just a lot of fun as well. There's lots to be fun just to be had with this game. It's crazy. And going back to the collectibles then, so you collect these weird little eggs, and I'm like, and I was at one point after a couple of hours, and I was like, why am I collecting these? And then I discovered that back at your, I guess, base area, that you have a bed. You can go to sleep in this bed, and you unlock dreams with these collectibles. Sounds weird. The very first dream you unlock with, I think it's 40 of these eggs that you've picked up, is you are Daxter, but you are Neo from the Matrix. You have to fight off 40 enemies by doing some button bashing, almost Parappa the Rapper style, which actually is probably quite hard to do the first couple of times. But again, they're quite hard, but you can pass it after a couple of goes.
Yeah.
And then you need to collect those eggs to be able to do that. And then I'm like, oh, well, I fucking hate collectibles. But in this circumstance, you unlock new moves for your combat. So it's actually useful. As in, you collect things so you can unlock better moves for later in the game.
So is that instead of like a shop or something like that?
Yeah, effectively,
Right.
yeah.
So you
It's
actually
effectively
have
like
to
a
go,
shop.
like unlock a mini game, do the mini game, get the move.
How good's that? Like,
That's a way better
other
idea.
games do this. Other games, I don't
Yeah.
understand, and I've got to be honest. I've not really played anything like that before. Like, isn't that where I thought, oh, actually, I might well do in the past, but it skips my memory to think that actually this is possibly the best use of collectibles I've seen in a game. Yeah. So, and the mini games themselves, like they are, as I've said so far, all the way through this, like, is in they are difficult. Like, I would say a child couldn't do these, but you fail 3 or 4 times, you learn, you get better, and you progress. And I'm like, okay, right, okay, that's what mini games should be like. They shouldn't just be either a gimme, and it should just be, what's the point of having that there, or too hard after 20, 30 goes that you can't do it. It was the right amount of difficulty for those as well. So yeah, I was super impressed with this game.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I loved spending time with it. And again, length of game, 8 hours. 8 hours, PSP game, like, it depends on how much you're paying for it and what you're looking for in a game. But for me, that is in something like this, a platformer. I'm just like, you complete it in maybe sort of, over a week in sort of like 3 or 4 sittings. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I wasn't feeling like, oh, it outstayed its welcome. I wasn't feeling like I needed loads more. I just felt like I got the right amount. So yeah, just what a wonderful game. And I felt really refreshed every time I played it. And that can't be said for the PSP games very often, I would say. For someone who loves the PSP, I think that there are a lot of games on there that are shovelware bullshit, that are, FIFA 09, FIFA 10, FIFA 11, like, as in just like, I wouldn't even count them as like necessarily shovelware or anything. All there are games on there that just aren't fleshed out enough. And I'll put this in the upper echelons of where I see, really, really good PSP games. So, I find it really hard to score in my head. I've not even written the score down because I don't know what's wrong with this game.
Right.
So, but can it be that this is the best game that I've played on this console? I think it is the best game that I've played on this console. But
Okay.
I just don't know. Like, as in, but I'd say the only thing that let it down was I just wasn't that bothered about the story. Like, as in, it felt like that was just kind of like, it just didn't matter. So I kind of feel that sort of is important. I couldn't see it being like a 10 out of 10 game because of that.
I was going to say, because you've got 10 out of 10 Loco Roco,
which there's tons of story notes.
Is in there.
Yeah,
it's 10 out of 10.
We've said that we have said that a couple of times though. That kind of feels like a placeholder because I need to go back to Loco Roco, I think, and I probably need to play Loco Roco 2 as well, to look at that. And I think that whilst we spoke about at the start of the podcast that it's more likely, we're going to grade these games. I think even that I can say it out loud now, not to give spoilers and stuff like that. Like, that is up there in how I feel about that game, but that's so subjective, rather than objective. Whereas I objectively think, and I've learned what those words that mean now. I remember one time not knowing what they are. I still don't really know what they are, but
I absolutely choose to ignore objective when it comes to these. Fuck it.
So but like objectively, I think this is a very, very good game and up there.
So, as a sort of a point of comparison, in the floating around the 9 out of 10s, you've got Wipeout Pure. Are we talking kind of Wipeout Pure?
I'd say on that level. On that level. I think so, yeah. I think it's probably a 9 out of 10 game. I do think that it's in my top 3 PSP games of all time that I've played, personally. Absolutely fantastic. And it was the first time that I really saw what I thought a platformer could be on the PSP, and it probably leaves a lot of other things in its wake as well. So, well done, Daxter. And I feel like I've now re-established myself with all the Jak and Daxter fans out there to say that I'm really sorry I've never played in the other games, but I have played this one, and it's bloody brilliant. Do you know what I mean? So there you go.
Nice.
Sandwich chat then. Let's finish off with sandwich chat because it feels very important to lock this down now that I've started down this sort of this can of worms, or is this Mario pipe?
What is a 10 out of 10 sandwich?
Yeah, like as in, so got. I mean, you've had time to think about it. I'm gonna have
had
to
time to
really
think about it.
spin here.
I kept coming back round to the same thing, tragically enough. So like a proper like really nice crusty white roll with like proper crispy bacon and a fried egg. Always hits the spot for me.
Sounds really good.
And I'm not talking about like an egg and bacon from like down Tesco where it's mushy egg and all that kind of shit. I'm talking proper like bacon that's been cremated to what's it.
So that's important. Like is
proper crispy.
Yeah, that's important.
But that said, I am a sucker for like your kind of ridiculous sandwiches as well. Like there was a place in London that would do like a chicken katsu sandwich with like breaded chicken and all that kind of stuff. Or in Japan, you could get like instant noodles in a sandwich and stuff like that. I think, all that kind of shit I love.
Yeah.
I shouldn't, but I do.
This wouldn't be my all-time just have everyday sandwich, but the best sandwich I ever had was in London, and it was a Sunday roast in a sandwich. Nice. And nice. It was, oh, wow. Like, and the irony was that my sister was running the London Marathon, and I'm here chomping this fucking Sunday roast like at the side of the road, just like, excellent. Go nuts! Oh, I just don't care. All right, okay, yeah, no, that's fair. I'm gonna find. I do love like I like a hot sandwich. I think like a good southern fried chicken sandwich with like just black pepper and some wonderful mayonnaise on it and stuff. Yeah, I mean I've not thought about that very well, but like like you say, like a good crusty white sort of roll on there or something like that. You just like something you can get your teeth into, don't you? That is in, yeah.
You know you've had it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You've got to know you've had it.
You've got to know you had it. I really set myself up for a fall there because I don't think that is genuinely my favourite sandwich ever. But like,
it's a difficult question.
I mean, eat a lot of fucking sandwiches. Do you know what I mean? Like, I had a really good BLT today actually. Oh. Yeah, probably the right amount of content, not a gravity rush amount of lettuce.
You've got to watch that ratio of lettuce to bacon.
You've got to watch it. It'll come at you strong.
Watch your ratios. Got to get that ratio right.
We should really get the ratio of sandwich chat to PS Vita game chat right
you guys weren't going anywhere, were you?
We should really slow this down. Right, okay. So next time you hear from us then, we're going to be talking about video games and video game consoles, handheld specifically. And I'm really excited about that chat, actually. But yeah, we're not going to be reviewing any games. And then we're going to be talking about reviews of games, but not reviewing any games.
We're going to be reviewing the reviews.
Yeah, and then that'll be us for the year, won't it? And then we're going to have a week off of Christmas because our pod would fall on Christmas Day. And then we're back New Year's. We'd spend a little bit of time talking about games over New Year's Day. So that'll be cool. So thanks for listening, guys. And we'll see you again soon.
Cheers.